Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Toast. And so far, 2023 has been, it's been busy with not only some major game releases, I mean, this has been one game after another, but also with showcases. Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation each already have had their own showcase, but it sounds like there's only more to come. Nintendo technically had a little bit of an event today, all while rumors that PlayStation has a massive showcase planned, and then Xbox also reportedly has their own event that sounds rather imminent. So yeah, more excitement incoming for 2023, and we'll get into each one of those a little later on today. First, though, we do have some other topics to get into, so let's just go and get right into things, starting off with Dead Space. Of course, the Dead Space remake released last month, and once again, I do highly recommend that game for anybody that likes horror games, or just games similar to something like the Resident Evil franchise. They do kind of play similar, so if you like one, you more than likely like the other, but that's for a different time. However, since the Dead Space remake release, much of the community has kind of wondered, will EA continue remaking the Dead Space franchise? Well, actually, we just got another hint that they're at least considering it. Reportedly, they've now sent out a survey where they ask, how interested would you be in a similar remake of Dead Space 2 2011? They also asked the same question for Dead Space 3. Well, honestly, I feel like with that game, fans would just prefer them to reboot it entirely. But yes, absolutely, I do think that a large portion of Dead Space fans would absolutely love to get a Dead Space 2 remake. Yes, it's a little bit more action-based than the first game, but it's still a great game, all things considered, and if it's handled as well as the first, I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, I know we're talking about EA and everything here, and you never know with them, but I feel like with the remake being received just so well, it's really put the Dead Space franchise in a good position going forward. So the fact that they're now sending the survey out to people, that is a pretty good sign that it might actually end up happening. And who knows, maybe that will eventually lead to a complete reboot of Dead Space 3. Again, I don't even really know if they have to remake that one. I'd say just kind of start from scratch. Oh, and here's some bittersweet news. Tells us Symphonia Remastered, if you can even really call it a remaster, recently released. Unfortunately, though, this game has been hampered by technical problems, especially when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, this game's got frame rate drops, it's got extreme lagging in parts of the game, and it's just not a good quote-unquote remaster, which is such a shame because it's actually a pretty good game, or at least the original version of it is anyways. It deserves better than this, but unfortunately that's just not the case for the time being. However, it does sound like Bandai Namco and the developer behind the remaster is listening to fans' feedback, as they did post this on Twitter addressing some of its issues. Their translated statement here reads, "We have confirmed that there is a problem with gameplay in this product version that is currently on sale. We are currently investigating a fix. We will inform you about the update for future fixes as soon as it is known. We will send it from this account, so please wait for the information. We apologize for the inconvenience caused to our customers." So, I mean, they probably shouldn't have released it in the state that it's in. I mean, that's the first thing here. But hey, the good news here is that they're at least looking to fix Tales of Symphonia, hopefully sooner rather than later. Now, speaking of fixes, let's just go and talk about Pokemon. It is Pokemon Day after all, which means they had their Pokemon Presents showcase where they revealed lots, and I mean lots of new Pokemon content. Now, we're not going to get into great detail about every single announcement that was made here, as it doesn't really all pertain to games, but I'll go ahead and run down a small list here, and then we'll just get into the nitty-gritty of their big game announcements. So this includes a new trading card game classic set. They also partnered up with Netflix to make a new Pokemon series, being Pokemon Concierge. Pokemon Unite will be getting a new character, Zacian. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but hey, continuing on, Pokemon Masters EX will be getting classic Pokemon Champions, so there's that if you like that game. Pokemon Sleep also finally got reintroduced, and yeah, it's about as strange as it always sounded. You basically sleep to get compared to Pokemon that sleep similar to you. More or less, they want to promote good, healthy sleep, so I mean, it's still a good thing that promotes health. That's a lot of what Pokemon Go is in the first place. A game that promotes a healthy living style. Get people out and walking a little bit more. And in fact, they did also announce Pokemon Go Plus Plus, which is a new accessory that combines Pokemon Go with Pokemon Sleep. This will release on July 14th. The big new announcement here, though, was new DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet being the hidden treasure of Area Zero, which will take players beyond the Paldea region with a new story to follow and new Pokemon to discover. So this is going to be a major addition to the games. Now, however, this will actually release in two separate parts. The first wave will be for the Till Mask, which is set to release in fall of 2023. In this part, players will go on a field trip to a new mountainous region with a village at its base. The second part of the expansion, the Indigo Disc, is set for a winter 2023 release where players will visit their sister school, Blueberry Academy. I actually do think that both of these expansions sounds pretty good on paper. It sounds like it's going to be quite extensive. Though, interestingly enough, even though this expansion is split up into two parts, it, however, does have one continuous story. This all goes for $35, and you can actually pre-order it on the Nintendo eShop right now. Though, I will say this, I wouldn't really be surprised if they also release a complete physical edition. They did do that with Pokemon Sword and Shield, so, I mean, if you do like physical box copies, that might be something to kind of keep an eye on. I mean, I'm just guessing here. There's certainly no guarantee or anything like that. But all I'm trying to say here is that you might want to hold off on a pre-order for the time being. I mean, it's not like it's going to sell out digitally anyways. However, as for the Scarlet and Violet update that everybody's just kind of been waiting for, well, that's also out today as well, though at least when it comes to the patch notes, they did not mention the game's performance. I was hoping they'd mention that today, but they didn't, which is a major letdown. Now, to be fair, they might have still improved things in the background, but that's kind of the thing here, because they're certainly not being very forthcoming about it if they have. Now, I haven't tried this update out myself yet, so I can't really speak to whether or not things have improved or not. But hey, you might want to go ahead and give it a try at the very least and see what happens. Maybe, hopefully it improved. If they haven't fixed it, though, that will be disappointing. If any of you all have tried the update, though, do let me know in the comments below. I'm actually very curious if things have improved. Actually, I want to go back and play this game myself if it has. Next up, though, let's go and talk about some more showcases, because it sounds like both Xbox and PlayStation have some exciting things incoming. The first of which isn't really a major surprise per se, but it sounds like an Xbox announcement is imminent. This is coming from Andy Robertson over on the Video Game Chronicles, which said, "I hear the announcement for the Starfield showcase is imminent." Now, of course, Xbox has already confirmed that they're planning a Starfield event. We know this already. They announced this last month right before the Xbox Direct, where they showed off some of their first-party games. At the time, fans were a little upset with the lack of Starfield, but Xbox, they made it crystal clear that they wanted to give Starfield its own Direct because they have a lot to get into. Instead of it having like a 5 or 10 minute slice in the middle of a showcase, instead it sounds like they want to have like a 20 to 30 minute showcase all to itself. Now, when you think about that, I think that it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we saw this game last year, and one thing that was very evident is that this game is massive. I mean, in some ways, it's your traditional Bethesda RPG experience. It plays like Skyrim and Fallout. Actually, I think the combat looks very similar to Fallout. But then there's also its aerial combat. You can build your own ships. There's this whole procedurally generated galaxy. And then to just top it all off, you have the handcrafted single-player content the fans know and love so much when it comes to Bethesda games. There's just a lot happening here, and I think that they need to go over each individual aspect in depth. Now, the reason I say that is because look at the turmoil post E3 last year. The first time they showed Starfield, fans absolutely freaked out because they thought the whole game was procedurally generated. It's not, but having that extra time to really explain that will go a long, long way with some fans out there. Plus, another thing that we need to know is its release date. As of this moment, they claim that it'll release in the first half of 2023. Without a date set in stone, though, some fans wonder if it'll miss that time frame, but we probably won't have to wait too much longer to find out officially. With Andy Robinson here saying an announcement is imminent, we might have a Starfield event incoming, maybe, possibly in March, where all our questions are then answered. Now, as for PlayStation, according to the often leaky Jeff Grubb, they have a massive showcase planned before E3. Now, he did previously allude to this, but he went into more detail on a recent episode of Jeff Grubb's Game Mess while talking about last week's PlayStation State of Play. I mean, a lot of fans were majorly disappointed in that State of Play. I said it myself last week, it just was not a very good showcase. Now, I don't think it was terrible. I do feel like that there was a few interesting announcements, but as a whole, it was definitely one of the weaker showcases in recent memory. But according to Jeff Grubb, that's because, quote-unquote, they're saving their good stuff for the PlayStation showcase that's going to happen before E3. He then continues on to say it was supposed to happen last fall, but they kept pushing back because their developers weren't ready. Now that those developers are ready, they should have a massive show that really sets up the second phase of the PlayStation 5. So, yeah, for anybody that was disappointed by the State of Play last week, well, it sounds like they might have something else up their sleeve, and whatever this is, sounds like it's more than going to make up for that showcase last week. Considering he is saying that this will happen before E3, though, we're probably talking about a showcase within the next 3 months. E3 is typically in June after all, so this event might happen around maybe May, possibly, just a guess, but this will be more of your big first-party showcase. And that's kind of the thing here, because there's just so much mystery behind a lot of these PlayStation first-party studios. I mean, if you think about it, outside of Insomniac with Spider-Man 2 and then Wolverine, we don't really know what a lot of these other studios are working on. So there's a chance that we'll get some updates here from studios like Sucker Punch, maybe Ghost of Tsushima 2. There's also Ben Studio. Their last game was in 2019, being Days Gone, so we could see an update from them. There's also Media Molecule, the studio behind Little Big Planet and Dreams. Fire Sprite, that's a pretty big studio that has multiple projects in development. Team Asobi, I would love to get another Astrobot game, and the list just kind of goes on and on and on. You have Blue Point Studios as an example. They seem to be teasing something, so maybe we get an update from them at a showcase like this. Whatever the case may be, though, if this showcase really is setting up the second phase of the PlayStation 5, we could get some far-out updates on what some of these studios are working on, which also includes Naughty Dog. Not only are they working on Factions, but they also have some other unknown projects in development. There's also a rumor going around that Sony has a new studio being supervised by Naughty Dog themselves. They're supposedly working on a new Uncharted. We've talked about this multiple times. So, I mean, there's also a possibility that we could hear about that here. And this isn't even including all the live service games that Sony has in development. We know that they have like 6+ live service games. So, yeah, this showcase really could end up being massive if all of this turns out to be true. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though. We're asked you all, what new game releasing in March of 2023 are you most excited for? And as you can see here, the majority of you all are looking forward to Resident Evil 4 Remake, with 48% of you voting for that, though second place wasn't far behind it, being Wolong Fallen Dynasty with 36% of the votes. Then 8% of you all voted for Other, 5% of you voted for The Legend of Heroes Trails of Azure, and then at the bottom, 3% of you all voted for Bayonetta Origins. Now, I would actually like to see the results a little higher for Bayonetta Origins. Bayonetta is an excellent franchise, but nonetheless, no big surprise here. Resident Evil 4 Remake is the winner. I mean, so far, Capcom has been doing an outstanding job with the Resident Evil remakes. Resident Evil 2 Remake, in my opinion, might very well possibly be the best Resident Evil game, just period. I really do believe that. It's an excellent game. Resident Evil 3, I know some people were a little bit more apprehensive of that one. It cut some content, but all things considered, I still think that it's a good game, and I think that Resident Evil 4 so far, it looks really good, and in some ways, it sounds like it's going to be even better than the original. I mean, they're trying to make it more scary, as an example. So, yeah, very exciting stuff with Resident Evil 4 Remake coming next month. As for Wolong Fallen Dynasty, this is a day one Xbox Game Pass game coming from Team Ninja. They've made some excellent games in the past, such as Neo and You also have Ninja Gaiden. So, I mean, we know they know how to make good games. And Wolong Fallen Dynasty, this is another Souls-like game. They've already done a great job in this genre with Neo, but this time Wolong is going to be available to more players. It is coming to Xbox this time, including that day one Xbox Game Pass release. So this is certainly a very, very exciting game. Hopefully it turns out to be as good as it looks. Now, as for Bayonetta Origins, like I said, I think this is a really great franchise. I think one of the reasons that we're seeing so little interest in this from the large part of the community, for one, Bayonetta is typically niche as is, but the price being $60, I have seen a lot of questions for that, but hopefully it will come out, get some good reviews, and maybe convince people otherwise. We'll see about that game. The price is still a little questionable, but nonetheless, March is continuing to look like another really good month. And I mean, 2023 as a whole has just been one month after another of just excellent games. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.